stuff, but we kind of know, right? And if I listen to something from him and I like it, I normally think, oh, it's his voice. I like that. But if I don't like something they put out, I normally think his voice kind of ruined that for me. I don't know what that is, right? Because every artist has got songs I like and don't like. My favorite bands of all time have songs I like. I love Iron Maiden. There's plenty of their songs I don't like, right? But it's not normally like, I think Bruce Dickinson is why I didn't like this right here. Like, that's not normally the thing. With System, it's like when I like it, I feel like he's the reason why I like it. And when I don't, he's the reason why I don't. Which I guess is the mark of an artist. But we did get into that a little bit yesterday. For New Tour Tuesday, got into some System of a Down, and again, Post Malone and MGK, all part of that yesterday. Now, that not in the podcast. There are music rights issues that we have the right to do that kind of thing over the air. Once we start putting it online, there's a different rule and all of that. So that segment no longer posted in the podcast. If you want to catch New Tour Tuesday, that you have to do live Tuesdays at 9. But today's Wednesday. So what we might have to do is get back into a conversation we had yesterday about whether or not you would turn your child in if you found out they committed a crime. There was a bestiality charge the other day, and a woman caught her son on security cameras and turned him in. We got to talking about that. I referenced Dexter inside that conversation because that's kind of like the premise of that show. It's like, oh, God, he's going to be problematic. We're going to teach him how to handle it right. We're not going to turn him in. We're going to do this, right? And so many of you listening yesterday said, oh, dude, have you not seen Your Honor? Because you're mentioning Dexter, and that's true, but like Your Honor's another show about whether or not you would turn your kids in. And Bryan Cranston, who had been in Malcolm in the Middle and obviously Breaking Bad, there were some Seinfeld episodes as well. He's a judge in this show, and his son gets in a little bit of trouble. And it's, are we going to turn him in or not? And people told me, oh, dude, if you haven't seen that, you got to watch that. So I went home yesterday. I got through the first 2 episodes of that. They throw you through a really wild twist in the first episode where it's like they're walking you down this path and you think, oh, great, another one of these. And then when they change it, it's like, oh, okay, all right, okay, you know what, interesting here. And I actually thought that twist in that first episode was pretty good. I got through the first 2. We'll see how I feel about the rest of that series. I found that on Netflix. Apparently it had been a Showtime thing initially. There's 2 seasons out now from what I understand, and I think streamers are kind of arguing with each other on who may pick it up for a 3rd season. But you guys recommended Your Honor to me yesterday, and I ended up enjoying the first 2 episodes of that. Thank you very much for that. Michigan turns out may be punished for that sign stealing issue that we saw with them last year. It's all over the rumors. Then where there is smoke, there is normally fire. We'll get into Michigan, and we'll do that coming up at 9 a.m. Also, there's a Cleveland area restaurant. Town Hall is their name. They own more than one establishment. But that restaurant group apparently is boycotting the Olympics because the opening ceremony was satanic. Oh, my God, day 6, right? Or whatever the hell day it is. It's just like, here we go again. I think this is just fake outrage to get their name in the headline so people kind of remember, oh, yeah, we're still here. I could be wrong about that, but we'll walk you through what's going on inside that conversation. Then what I thought might be a good idea is, let's take a look at Stark County gold medal winners. Do we have any? Have we ever had any? So inside that conversation, we've had conversations about the Olympics for the last couple of days. So I figured that might be a good idea. We'll walk you through the Stark County gold medal winners, and we'll do that part of the 8 a.m. hour. Also at 7, Billy Joel and the rest of Green Day got in trouble by being, wait for it, Green Day. They've literally done this before. They wrote an entire album about it before, and yet for some reason, Green Day in trouble for being Green Day. We'll get to that conversation, that part of our 7 o'clock hour this morning. I don't know why people are up in arms about this. You're only going to make them more famous for it. And we'll get to that at 7. Also, Browns legend Joe Thomas has taken issue with a woman complaining about having to be in a restaurant where they played the national anthem and everybody stood up to take part of that. There's a barbecue restaurant that's famous for doing it. They do it in all of their locations. This woman apparently did not know that. Everybody stands up in the restaurant. She makes it racial in her video, and Joe Thomas, of all people, is clapping back at her, and we will get to that. That will happen in the 7 o'clock hour. Next, though, Apparently, these award shows are suffering even more problems. And I think this is obvious to see why. And we'll take a look at that, and we'll do it next on the Stansbury Show. It's 330-450-7625 to send a text to the studio. Microphone talkback button at your disposal, too. That you can find if you're using iHeartRadio to listen.
There's your ride.
What?
Maybe facing some punishment for those sign-stealing allegations. We'll get to that at 9 a.m.
Transit.
Apparently, the Oscars are having a hard time finding a host, and I'm not surprised by this even a little bit.
Cruisin.
Jimmy Kimmel and John Mulaney both have passed. Jimmy Kimmel a little less surprising for me. Now, what makes me say that is the popularity.
Yeah.
John Mulaney, a pretty popular guy in his own right. And he's got a couple of great specials that have been out. He did that Everybody's in LA kind of show for Netflix for their comedy season and all of that. That was pretty good.
About your situation.
He's a pretty popular guy, but he's not, I don't believe, on the same level as Jimmy Kimmel. So I can understand, as far as like name recognition.
Are you planning on...
So I could understand Kimmel going...
Just on the one job?
Dude, I'm out. Mulaney, I would think, is maybe
I'm gonna tell if already they are hired, you know, like it's gonna ask for Atika.
But apparently, both have passed. This is supposed to take place March 2nd. Kimmel, a four-time Oscar. He turned it down earlier in the summer.
Okay.
Again, Mulaney had been presenting.
Because I don't want to tell as long as like.
And he has also then since hosted the Governor's
Not
Award.
sure.
But again, he's saying, I'm a little busy with this.
Ever like.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this.
What am I gonna say?
Kimmel has done it 4 times, and that's tied for the most hosting duties with. Well, he'd be tied with Whoopi Goldberg and Jack Lemmon. Johnny Carson had done it 5 times. Billy Crystal, and that's kind of who I remember doing it a ton when I was a kid. He had done it 9 times, and Bob Hope, 19 times he had hosted the Oscars. I think there's a couple of reasons why some of these hosts are starting to turn it down. One, I just don't think the Oscars is what it is.
Is there a difference between the two?
It's just not. It's still important.
How much you get paid?
And like the people who host Oscar parties and the like, they're probably still doing that.
They will give
for the longest time, you could get like the average person to tune into the Oscars a little bit.
Where?
Like even people who aren't real big movie buffs or into that
no,
kind
I'm talking about right
thing,
now.
You know, and by that thing I mean celebrities snapping their arms off so they can pat themselves on the back for making things you never saw.
They're the same.
Same.
I mean, that's kind of what the Oscars is, right? But you could get people to tune into it occasionally.
But I don't know.
Because it was like, well, these are the famous.
Do whatever makes you
This
happy.
is where they all are. Look, there's a collection of them. And what are you wearing? And who loaned you that diamond necklace? And it was kind of part of it.
You don't want to be.
Now the celebrities are all spread out.
Figure out a way to, you know.
You also have more access into them than ever before. Not only that, I would maintain that because what we're all, most of us do with our television or movie viewing is, how often are you trying something new?
I don't like that. As long as I can.
Not that often.
At least I'm always.
What a lot of people are doing is re-binging, re-watching the same thing 8 million times. I do it all the time. And again, that's because, well, that can be a little audio wallpaper for me while I'm really scrolling the phone. And I think that that's taken hold. So I think a lot of people aren't necessarily interested in who's winning the awards for these movies because not a lot of people are
trying
seeing
to cut down the one job.
And the Oscars has always kind of felt like the Velvet Rope.
You're better off.
You know what I mean? Like the people's movies. Like I'm going to bet right now one of the people's movies would be what?
They're going to put you full time again.
Right, that's going to be one of the people's movies. That would be the Nickelback. And
you know that. You know that's what's going to happen.
And like the Oscars is like, no, Nickelback, no.
I just don't want you hurting yourself.
No, that's not what we're into. Yeah, you like that because you're stupid and live in the middle of the country and like you live in a flyover state. And like the Oscars is a little too snotty. Like they are.
You deserve.
And like most people don't have a life like that. And so I think it's just kind of a tune-out for people. Beyond that, John Mulaney can get his work in front of you at a moment's notice now. Hosting the Oscars used to lead to this, lead to that, lead to this, lead to that, but their podcast will do that.
I gotta get gas. Get a drink.
And I'm thinking that most hosts understand that you don't really care.
You want water?
You almost at this point don't want to be attached.
I need that there.
Billy Crystal back in the day, and Bob Hope, and You know, Johnny Carson. You wanted to be. It's like, well, of course Johnny Carson's the one that's doing it.
Some other
He
things
is Johnny
here.
Carson for crying out loud. That's not really the
some
thing.
other things here.
The Oscars aren't really perceived to be that thing. Hollywood's in kind of a weird place. Like they are. They're in a weird place. Because when you're trying to be all things to everybody because of what you're reading in comment sections, that's how you end up making stuff that it's like, who is this for? Right? Like, who is this for? Because everybody's just looking around like, what are we doing here? And if you're not going to highlight the movies that actually get people to go to the theater, Deadpool and Wolverine, then what are we really doing here? Right? I think people have always been a little bit more into, like, and by people I mean you and I. We've always been a little bit more into what? The People's Choice Awards, the MTV Music Awards, the MTV Video Award, you know, Movie Awards, that kind of stuff. Because they would highlight the things that we actually saw. You think Twisters is going to be in the Oscars? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's that kind of thing that happens. And there's a separation. It's kind of like when A&E started, it was actually arts and entertainment. Stuff for the Oscars. But nobody watched that. They couldn't get ratings with the arts and entertainment. So now we watch hillbillies open up storage lockers instead. Welcome back to the Sandsbury Show. 9 a.m. Michigan may get their comeuppance. The word on the street, Wolverines may get punished here. We'll get to that. You know, as I complain about social media a lot, and I do, maybe too often, some of my favorite follows are the photojournalist people from the local news station. And they normally got great video. So one of the guys I follow is Dave Kraskell, who does in fact work for News Channel 5, photojournalist there. And it was his feed early this morning where I saw a lot of the WWE trucks rolling into downtown Cleveland. SummerSlam this weekend. Now, we also have Hall of Fame weekend. And I remember saying 6 months ago when we started to talk about all this, I was like, this could be a wild weekend here in Northeast Ohio, right? Because I think you're going to see a mixture of the two worlds all over the place. Like, one of the big things on socials now is collaborate. You can do a collaborative post where you put it out and then you tag this collaborator and then they are now, and then they put it out and it's now both of your posts. Get ready for the WWE NFL collab post to be, and I mean absolutely nauseating, I would imagine. Right? Now, I understand it. I get it, for sure. I kept saying, oh my God, I think this is going to make this weekend way busier. And I'm interested to see if I'm right about it. Because now I sit here Wednesday morning and I'm like, So Saturday night is SummerSlam. Right? That's when that's going down. If memory serves. That's Saturday night. I would have to imagine that's going to pull some of the people who are down here for these events up to that. And so are we going to be more spread out? Or is it both these events so close to one another? The traffic's going to be what it is. And like, I'm curious to see what we get there with that. I think First Friday is going to be packed. And I mean packed. I think that's going to be every year, no matter what. I'm like, all right, it's First Friday. I'm going to do something. And this year will be no different. On Hall of Fame weekend, not every First Friday do I go out. A lot of them I will. This is one of those every year, no matter how tired I am, it's like, dude, take a little bit of a nap, take a shower, hit the street. You're going to see something. Something will be fun. You'll meet this person. You'll get introduced to this. And it's such a fun part of living here. I tell this story to people who don't live here all the time. But, like, I knew I was someplace different my first year. And I grew up in Ohio, not all that far from here. I'm from Twinsburg, for crying out loud. It's not that far. And I was living in an apartment in downtown when I first moved here. Right at 6th and Market. Right where I was. Right across the street from the car museum is where I lived for, like, the longest time when I first moved here. And I went out my front door to get a paper.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Because, well, the newspaper was right across the street from me, right? So, like, I just used to walk across the street and get a paper. And as I was coming back to my apartment, I almost ran into Jerry Rice as he was, like, jogging down the street. I was like, wait, what? Like, because when I moved to California and you'd spend some time in LA. I didn't live in LA, but you spend some time there. You get whiplash looking at all the famous people. You know what I mean? Where it's like by the end of your first week, you barely pick your head up anymore because you've seen 900 of them. Here, it's not necessarily like that. And so I was just like taken back. I was like, Jesus, dude. Like one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time, literally just jogging down my street right here. That was wild to me. I also got a rude awakening. My first parade here. Again, because of where my apartment was. So it's right in there on the corner, and there was an alley
like you're gonna buy
that
there?
was right next to my bedroom window.
Like
and
you're gonna buy
told
there,
me
sweetheart?
that alley is where all
Like
the high
example,
school
you're gonna
bands
say you're gonna buy
start the
one
parade at
little,
every morning.
or
I didn't know that. So we went out the night before.
Oh my
This is my
goodness,
one of my
that's
ex-girlfriends. I was dating
Oh,
somebody
you
else when I
can-
first moved here. And we went out that night before, obviously, and got drunk and did the whole thing and walked home, and we were hammered. And then next thing you know, they started practicing the drum chorus
Must be
in the morning,
lost.
Tammy, and we leapt out of that bed. She was like, "What in the hell is going on?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know." And then I walked outside and I saw them all stacked up there, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "I guess the parade
we late?
starts right in front of my house."
No.
I guess that's what's happening right there. That was a
this is
rude
the
awakening.
Delaware.
I am kind of happy I don't live right there anymore for
okay.
that weekend. It would be a little
The
tough to get in
problem is
and
there's
out of
no
there because they
parking
block off
here.
some of the
That's
streets, and
outside
you
of
knew
the
it's like
road.
better go to the store the night before. You better wait until everything's over, tonight, because you'd almost be trapped in that little square block right there. But I love this weekend, and I'm interested to see what we get. If it's busier or less busy, because people are like,
you
First
mad?
Friday Canton, I don't know, man. We're already going up Saturday night for SummerSlam. Let's just go up there and see what we got going on. I'm interested to see what happens. I guess there's also CC Sabathia bobblehead night Saturday night. If you happen to be
You
going to
make
the
me
Guards,
nervous if you're driving.
just again, another event there. Huge for Cleveland to be thinking, obviously to get SummerSlam this same weekend. Which is, again, why a lot of people would like to see a dome happen if you're going to build another stadium, because you could get more events like that throughout the year. I think the pushback there is what? Well, there's no guarantee you're going to get those events, though. Right? It's just a way to seduce. I guess Andrew Barry said the other day, Brown's GM for anybody who doesn't know, they got to talking to him at camp the other day. And he said he prefers the dome idea. But, well, obviously, then he kind of said, anything will be great. But, you know what I mean? But he prefers the dome stadium idea, which I thought was very, very interesting. Because I'm not sure he says that unless he knows that his employers are okay with it. Like, if I talk to a publication, like, let's say the repository wants to talk to me. That happens, right? And they ask me some questions. There are going to be things I know that it's like, my boss ain't ready for me to say that. And if I say that publicly, I now put us in a situation where we have to defend said position. And we have to present this way, right? You're limiting people by what it is you're saying. And so when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, is this us? Is this them telling us, get ready, this is what's going to happen? Now, the backpedal at the end of the quote is like, whatever. Obviously, we'll wait and see what happens, but I like this idea. It's just, I'm not sure the GM says that unless they're thinking that's what's going to end up happening. I know some people who do feel, not that they have any idea of this or not, but some people I know do have the feeling it's like, dude, this is all but done. This is all but done. They are clearly moving. You are clearly getting a dome. It's what's best moving forward for all forms of entertainment. And at some point, I think it's going to get interesting with the NFL because, like I've said, in the NBA, the hoops are the hoops. Right? Like, you don't go to New Orleans tomorrow and now they're 7 foot, right? Like, that doesn't happen. In the NFL, indoor, outdoor, that whole thing, it gets weird with sports like that. You know what I mean? Who has a home field advantage because of the weather? I've said I would dome 99% of stadiums in the NFL. The one that feels egregious to do it to is Lambeau. Even Buffalo, it's like, dome it. Right? Like, dome it. Like, even
you're
that
standing
feels like
at
that
the
for me.
side of the road,
Lambeau
like you're
feels
awaiting
like, oh, that's sacred
what's this?
ground. I'm not sure
For
you can be
the
doing
transit.
all of that.
Some motorists are looking at
Go back
you.
to the
They're
program.
thinking you're waiting something.
I tell you
So it
that
was
you can use that microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio to reach your studio,
Yeah, it happens.
whether it be for
I
something
said,
you like
what?
Or maybe you're
When the time
unhappy
that I
like
was
this man.
standing there as
But I
well.
feel like you just replaced
I
that
was
kind of a-
road song with Talk Dirty.
Kind of a dangerous thing to do in the
Play it a lot.
Canton and Akron area too, because a lot of people that are
Yeah.
driving around up there are
Talk Dirty to
looking
me
for
has
hookers.
been, and I came back out
Before.
the last round of
I
music
see
testing.
him.
Like, I have noticed that. It has been out there, so I will try. for
Just
all
make
of
me
you
nervous.
Why don't you
to,
chill out a
not
little
give
bit?
Talk Dirty to me for the rest of it.
When you get your license, you can freak out. I've been doing this a long
You knew I was
time.
gonna, right? Yeah, it's kind of what radio is. Make big songs, big hits in there. You know who fits that bill is Green Day. They fit that bill pretty well. And
We need to get online
Green Day,
and
right?
schedule your appointment too
And I don't know why.
for your
Green Day's in
test.
trouble for, wait for it, being Green Day.
That's the way we got to do it. We got to go on
At a
the
recent concert,
BMV website,
Billy Joel
and they got like a
Billy
calendar
Joel picks up a trumpet.
of all the
apparently
available
has the word
slots or
idiot
whatever.
written on it. And he's like hanging it out in front of the stage.
Just got to go in there and pick the one that's best for you.
Now again, why I keep saying is they're just in trouble for being Green Day. Because this has already happened.
And I think they
I'm not sure everybody knew this,
test Monday through Friday,
or maybe
or Monday
forgets
through
it,
Saturday too.
but this
so-
band put out an entire album dedicated to the fact that they hated a president. The entire
Monday
album,
too.
it was a...
I'm sure Dad wouldn't have a problem coming to pick you up and take you to that
So, like,
appointment or whatever.
If that's what he
Get
thought
your
about
test.
George Bush Jr.,
Because it
I would
doesn't
imagine he's
take
probably the
long.
cover of Senior Idol.
I think maybe it takes maybe an hour.
But of W,
If that.
if you didn't like W, you
'Cause
honestly
you're
think he's going to
you're
like
not out
Trump? Like, of course not.
like that route I
And
showed
yes,
you that I
do
took
we have to go over
the other day.
the obvious point
I
everybody
mean, you saw
already
how
knows.
long that took.
Yes, we do.
I mean,
That if you like what somebody is saying, preach on. Facts. 100.
Like 1
Keep
hour?
it real.
I don't even think it takes that.
If
I don't
you
even
don't
think it takes
like
that
what
long.
somebody is doing and or saying.
However long it takes.
I-
Remember when their albums first came out and the punk scene was
It
like,
won't take
these
it won't
posers
take
don't
more
have
than an
anything to
hour,
do with us.
is what I'm
These
saying.
dudes are posers. I was there.
But 15
like, punk
minutes
rock
is
wanted nothing to do, and
15,
I mean
20 minutes
nothing
is
to do with
about
Green Day when they came
how
out.
long it takes.
But they kind of
Because
passed
it's just like a
themselves off
short
as a
route
punk
that
rock.
they take you on,
You're shocked
and then you finish
that a
off
punk
with,
rock band is anti-establishment.
maneuverability.
That's the entire genre. That's what it is. That's what it's for. I'm also okay with artists. Like when Kathy Griffin
See, the
had
maneuver
the
I'm
bloody
always
Trump head and she
mistaken.
decapitated, I said,
Well,
well,
you're doing fine.
I understand
on
why
that.
people are going to be yelling at her.
You didn't mess
It
up
doesn't
one
necessarily
time on that
bother
last
me.
time we did it. You went through just fine.
Much like I said, if you want to threaten to kill a president,
You
I
have to
understand why
start
the
over,
FBI's like, we
but
got to
you
swing by
never
homie's
knocked the
house.
cone
Like, I
over.
get that. I get that. It doesn't
And
necessarily
during
bother
your
me.
tests, whenever
It's not what I would do, but plenty of
Whatever
things
you're doing,
I
the
wouldn't do
maneuverability.
don't bother me.
as long as you don't
I'm
hit
not
a
going
cone,
to go jump out of an airplane.
if you feel like you have to
You want
start
to do that
over,
this weekend? Go
you
with
can
that.
ask the test.
You know what I mean? Like, it
tester
doesn't
if you
doesn't
can
bother
start
me.
it.
Just stand up there and
And
give me the
they
art.
have behind me.
Huh?
They have a
Because if what
instructor
you want to
behind
say, if
me.
you can put what you want to say into the thing,
beside
now
you,
I'm
right
in.
where you're at.
Once you're preaching from the stage with the, just standing there and stopping the show,
It
and
would
I'm
just
not
be you
hearing
and
the
the
rest of the hits off
instructor.
of Dookie because you're doing this, then I'm like, I don't know if I love this.
They'll tell you where you
Like
need
my
to,
buddy,
they'll tell,
one of his
tell you where
favorite
they want you to
bands is
turn.
And so I got tickets. They played at Blossom. This
It's
is
gonna be up
years
to
ago
you to
now, but
remember
I was
to
working here when it happened.
Use your signals
And we went. And Billy Joe actually said, look,
Obey
we're not
the-
going to do a
obey
whole
the
lot of that
rules of the
tonight. We're just
road.
going to kind of do this. And the place went
mind your
crazy.
traffic signs and your
And everybody standing around us was like,
lines
oh,
on
good.
the road.
Oh, good. I think people can handle what you're saying in
This
your
is
art.
called broken line too, right?
Uh-huh.
It becomes
This
a
is
little bit
double
tougher
yellow.
to swallow for people
That means no passing.
when you're just
No passing,
directly
yeah.
saying. I think it's because people, and myself included, can misunderstand art at sometimes. And I remember I was telling, who was it? It was one of the guys in Pink Floyd said this. David Gilmour, I believe. They asked him once, what's this song about?
Window is open.
And he said, I'm not telling you. a little pretentious, yes, but it's also a very, very, right? And if you go see Green Day, and they show up on that stage, and they show up as Green Day, like, I'm not so sure you get to be upset about it.
Oh my goodness.
By the way, we're really going to go... This thing we claim we don't like, we're going to run into the arms of it. Over a Halloween mask? I mentioned that because people are upset with Green Day, which is why we pulled some... Green Day's been Green Day for a while now. That's kind of what they... 8 o'clock, there's more Olympic fallout by a Northeast Ohio restaurant. Give them exactly what they want. I'm sure they're going to love it, but we're going to do that. But we had been talking about Billy Joe and Green Day a little bit, because apparently he held up a Trump Halloween mask the other night, and it had the word idiot written on the forehead. Now, he's throwing an homage to himself, because back in the day, he would wear a W mask on stage, and it had idiot written on the forehead. And like I said, if you knew he was anti-Bush, so did you honestly think it's like, oh no, this Trump guy though, like I think I might be in over here. Like zero chance Billy Joe and that thing Green Day are going to be those guys. Zero chance. That's going to be a thing. I've said it before, man. Most entertainers are going to lean progressive. I maybe shouldn't say most. You know what? I'm going to stop there, because a lot of people in Hollywood feel like they want to support Trump and are going to be persecuted if they do. That part's true. But a lot of entertainers are going to lean more progressive. They just are. Now, that used to be true because the progressives were like, yeah, do create your art. Now, they're the ones a little bit like, don't say this, don't say that, don't say this, don't say that. Although they've kind of always been that since Tipper Gore was the one trying to make you not be able to listen to records. I don't know. That's weird that we had fascists on both sides of stuff. That's strange. Who do we yell at now? Oh, no. Anyway, but people were upset with Billy Joe. I said, well, they're just being Green Day. I don't understand. But let's read you some comments online that they took. Billy Joe Armstrong might discover what it would be like for heads to be actually paraded through our streets if he and many others don't get theirs on straight. Oof. That sounds like a threat from Georgia there. That's her name, not like the state. Fox Night. Billy Joe Armstrong holds up a severed Donald Trump head. He is a good example of an American idiot. Boycott Green Day. Team USA. Vote for Trump, everyone. Okay, well... So you misunderstood what the point of the song American Idiot was. That's okay. That's okay. Just enjoy the song. Born in the USA. Just enjoy the song for what it is. Not everybody has to take the meaning. But guys, it was not a severed Trump head. It was a Halloween mask for crying out loud. It's perfectly okay to raise that and call that man an idiot.
You know that the most talkative
you get to have your opinion.
Woman is a talkative now.
I'm the audience.
The worst talkative
okay, but like,
is
not everybody in that audience agrees with you either, though. Some of those people that paid their hard-earned money to go see Green Day did it because of what they do. They feel we need more of this, not less. I don't necessarily love the preaching thing. Give me the art. I'm all about the art. I don't necessarily love the preaching thing. I know it sounds hypocritical because of what my job is. I'm not a singer-songwriter. If I had the voice and could play guitar, you'd think I'm doing this? Not even a little. I'd be writing you the songs about what I think. That's not how I entered the world. This is how I entered the world. Much like if you found out I was playing center stage with my guitar on Friday night for First Friday, you'd be like, what the hell is that about? Right? Of course. But when you find out I'm on the air Monday morning, of course, that's where Stansbury goes. That's what he does. That's how he enters the world. This is how I know him. And so I would rather artists do that, but I know I'm not going to necessarily get that. And everybody gets their voice. Whether we like it or not, everybody gets it. Inciting violence against a former president. He's responsible now. I don't know if he's inciting violence by holding up a Halloween mask. It's not like they had a full-body Trump doll and decapitated him on stage. However, artistic expression. I want to be able to make fun of politicians whenever I feel like it, and I do. I kind of have to leave that open for somebody else. I've said before, I have to be able to criticize my country in order to do this job effectively at certain times. Not every day, not every break, but at certain times I need the ability to be able to talk about this country and not love everything I see. I'm allowed to do that, and so are you. And I don't know why Green Day writes American Idiot or whatever song and they're no longer allowed to do that, because we just want to put our quarters in the entertainers and gyrate those hips, sing the song, and then shut up, right? We kind of want to pick and choose where people get to be things. Jan had written in response to this. Not to me, just, these were kind of just pulled from the net. Oh, but Republicans are the ones that need to tone things down, right? Because that was like one of the big things after the assassination. Out of that one now. They are memory holing the living hell out of that. But we don't have to get sidetracked. But immediately after that, it was everybody needs to tone this down. Tone down the rhetoric. And I remember I warned conservatives. I don't know if I'd be running towards tone down the rhetoric. Your guy kind of likes to amp it up. Right? Like he's kind of, I like this rhetoric amped up. He does kind of seem to like that. I don't think this is amping anything up. Again, it's a Halloween mask. I don't know why I can't do anything I want with one of those. Don't want Green Day to be this from the stage? Okay, then don't go. Just listen to the songs. Most people who go see Green Day understand what it is they're going to get. As a matter of fact, I told you a story. I took one of my buddies, one of his favorite bands. It's like, all right, man, I'll get tickets. We'll go to Blossom. We'll go. And sure enough, we were sitting up on that hill. And they did a little bit of it, and then Billy just said, look, man, that's all I got to say. Other than that, we're at a show. Let's rock out. And the place went crazy. And everybody had a good time the rest of the night. I would think that's what's better for people to be doing. But imagine being a celebrity. See, I'm not a celebrity, but I am recognizable. And so I can kind of put myself into this arena here a little bit. Because if you don't do the thing, then people are mad at you about that too. Use your platform for good, Billy! Why are you a coward? The rest of us are starving. The rest of us are out about it. Might as well just be who you are. If you're gonna take the heat anyway, then be who you are. I don't understand why people feel as if they can't like a musician anymore over what their political affiliation is. I don't quite understand that. I think it might be because I care less about politics than some other people do. I remember I had my mom on for International Women's Day. And I asked her, how are my brother and I different? And my mother said, your brother is politically active because he loves it. You're politically active because you have a job to do. And if you didn't do that for a living, you would never read any of that ever again. And I remember saying to her, no, I would choose to be happy instead. I mean, that's just it. And so I think maybe that's why I don't get as necessarily get crazy about it. 7625. I have a great respect of Eric Church, and I've seen him live. I also know some people who know him personally, and they all say great guy, and I mean great guy. So I've heard that before from him. I think part of the reason why Eric might keep his mouth shut a little bit while speaking, or from the stage a little bit, is I don't think the bulk of his audience shares his political view. Eric is a little bit more of a liberal. For sure he is. He got in trouble for some of his gun views from a conservative crowd not that long ago, a couple of years ago. And he shares a couple of more. Eric's going to be, what he's going to tell you is he's more in the middle than anything. And what is the stereotype of a country audience? Die hard red. It's not really true. Is it, you think all those 29-year-old women listening to all those country songs in green are all Republicans? No, they're not. Like, no, they're not. Some of them, but not all of them. I think Eric hides it a little bit because I forget his name now. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do this, but Chris Jansen, Buy Me a Boat. I remember Rolling He talked about it in that article. He's like, so many people in my audience don't like my views. They don't like this. They don't like that. He said, but I feel passionately and I feel strongly that I should open my mouth and say things. That's what I wish people would do. If you feel that passionately, that I gotta get this out, then you should do it. Where I think everything becomes a little bit of a mess with these conversations is, I talked about it just a couple of seconds ago. Everybody gets pressured into being an activist and speaking out now. And we got people who really aren't in these lanes kind of in them because audiences are demanding it. Because no, it isn't. Welcome back to the Stansbury Show. 9 a.m. We'll take a look at the fact that Michigan might get spanked on that bottom. We'll get there 9 a.m. Beside themselves, Billy Joe, lead singer. I guess he held up a Trump Halloween mask. And people then rushed to get offended by it. Oh my God, they decapitated him. Is that what we think every time we see every other Halloween mask? Yeah. It's one of those things, man. Beyond that, he's a big boy, right? Like, I feel like Trump can take it. I feel like he's a big boy who can take it. I don't, by the way, people are like, oh, we have to dial this down after the assassination attempt and all this stuff. And like, look at what they were saying about dialing it down. And now we're right back to this. Okay. If anybody goes to a Green Day show and he's holding a Halloween mask that says idiot on it, and that person thinks the problem was always them. Always them. I want music. I want concerts. If we do what we're suggesting there, well, you can't, then we're never going to have anything ever again because, well, what if, and this could, and what if this goes down? That's living in fear. That's one way to sell that. We're living in the fear of what could come down the road. That does not feel American to me. That in the face of fear, we're going to be who we are. With the image, apartments, and spin, and this group, and they own multiple restaurants. And I have worked for these people once before. They didn't know that. They're big enough to where you could bartend at one of their bars and they would have never known. But I've worked for these people once before. And that restaurant group, Instagram, talk about the Olympic opening ceremony, and they felt like it was handled irresponsibly is what they felt. Now, it's been a lot of conversation about this. Oh my God, it wasn't even supposed to be the Last Supper. It was supposed to be this, and we can tell who's